Hi there. It is one beautiful day in Brenham, Texas, I gotta tell you. This front that blew in, walked outside this morning, nice and cool, mid 60s. It feels great. So what am I up to today? Well, there's a historic marker right behind me, and it's about the Camptown Cemetery. And let me show you a little bit about this pretty interesting place with a lot of great history. So I'm in the area of Brenham known as Camptown. And it's known as Camptown as I will give you the opportunity to read what this marker says, the historical marker. I'm not going to read it. But I got the name Camptown from Union soldiers that were camped here after the Civil War, of course. And from 1865 to 1868, Union soldiers camped here, and they helped protect former slaves from some not too happy former slave owners. And there was a lot of friction and animosity in Brenham at the time, and this is part of a story that I've been talking about or kind of hinting at in some of my previous videos. And it's the Burning of Brenham. In that period of time, a lot of crazy things happened, and I've researched. There's a book called The Burning of Brenham. I talked to the author. She lives here in Brenham. Her name is Sharon Brass, and she says her husband is as much a historian or more so than she is, and that may be who I need to talk to. And we finally agreed that when they have the time, they'll probably both be willing to sit down with me and talk about that, the whole story. The Union soldiers set fire to the city of Brenham two separate times, and that led to there's very few headstones here for as many people are supposed to be buried here, I believe. There may be unmarked graves. That's so faded you can't even read it. And I mean, it's badly deteriorated. There's a sign up front that says it's in the process of some restoration. That person passed in 1934, long after the beginnings of this cemetery. I bet back in the back is going to be the older, more historic stuff. Not that something from 1936, it's almost 100 years ago. It's pretty ancient history. Well, I guess not ancient history. My mom was born in 1935, my dad too. So we'll call that recent times, right? Robert Scott, 1896 to 1936. So what did that make him? 40 years old? From what I've read in my research, there are Union soldiers buried here, and a whole lot of former slaves and their descendants. But I haven't found anything nearly that old. I'm seeing where a lot of work has been done here. The old rotten trees are being cut down and chopped up. And I would say they have still a lot of work to do here to totally restore this. And it's fascinating to me that there aren't more stones here. I know a lot of these old grave sites, these old cemeteries, they had like maybe wooden gravestones or just a stake in the ground, and long ago that it was lost. There's no way of knowing who was buried there. I mean, in many cases, I think even if there are people buried there. So in my work, I went to Alabama, and I was geocaching a lot at the time, and I went to some cemeteries where there was a geocache, and there were I mean, it was just incredible, the amount of white crosses, just plain white crosses. It was like the National Cemetery in Arlington. Like as far as you could see, there were markers. And I read that they had used ground penetrating radar to determine that someone was buried there and place those markers, and that they were all of those deaths were from the Civil War era. And that may be the case here. It's just they haven't, or maybe will not, go to those links to find out where people are buried here. I always try not to walk over somebody's grave, and I've probably done it a number of times today, but I think I have a legitimate excuse in that there's no way to avoid it. I don't know where the people are buried when there's no markers. And I wish I could read that. I can tell they either were born or died in 1893. There's a fit. I guarantee you some people are buried in there, but I don't see any stones. So anyway, this area, Camptown, this is where, of course, even after the Civil War and emancipation, there was still segregation, Jim Crow laws, and this is where the black school was. It was called Pickard. I don't really know how they pronounced it. Pickard. Pickard or Pickard. Anyway, that's they're the ones I think I mentioned in my Henderson Park video. The sports teams from Pickard High School, or Pickard School, I guess it was all grades. They Mr. Henderson had the facilities and allowed them to play their games at what is now Henderson Park. And then I think it was the North End Park. And if I remember correctly, they won either 2 or 3 state championships in the 1960s, which is pretty cool. And I believe a couple of state baseball championships before the schools became integrated here in Brenham. So let's see what we got here. 1889 to 1913. No, hang on, 1837. So this is the oldest I found. This person was born in 1837 and died in 1911. Darling sister, Ruby L. Brown, born June 25th, 1885, died May 14th, 1917. Charles H. Kennard, 1869 to 19. Well, I said what I said I didn't want to do. Didn't I? 1917. I'm sorry, Charles, for standing on your grave, but to see who you were and when you lived, I kind of had to. So we got, I think that's 1911 to 1914. Just a baby. Anyway, this is the beginning of the story. As the rest of the story unfolds and we get to the burning of Brenham, this area plays a big part in it. And I may publish this as its own video, or I may use this footage for just to cut clips in to tell the bigger story. Not sure what I'll do. Tell you what, the other cemeteries I've been to in Brenham sure have a better maintenance program than this one does. That's a shame. People put these flags out of respect for people that fought for our nation, and they don't pick them up. They're just laying on the ground, and I would, but There's a bunch of them. I can't do that today. Sorry, and I wish I could. You know what? I can't help it. I gotta put this camera down. I'm gonna sit in my truck a minute rest. I'm gonna go pick up some flags. I can't stood that. Ain't gonna happen. I'll be back. Yeah, I'm not sure I got all of them, but I got a lot of them. Here we go. Feel a whole lot better about that. Good exercise too. God bless America. We got a bunch of kindling type wood there at the bottom. Appreciate those people for serving the United States of America in our military, and I appreciate their loved ones who honored them, or whoever put flags on their graves. But the condition of these flags, and laying on the ground, tattered, faded, this is the right thing to do. Don't mind doing it. I find it ironic that when a flag is torn, tattered, faded, the proper thing to do is to burn that flag. And the idiots, some of them Americans, that protest this country and want to degrade or tear down the United States of America, what do? Burn the flag. I know they do it for different reasons and in a different way, but still, like Forrest's mom said, stupid is as stupid does. And she was a wise lady. God bless America.